Sometimes walking away is not weakness. It is the first step to finding your strength. My name is Maya. I am 28 years old, and I live in a small town near Brighton. The streets here are quiet, and the sea is never too far away. I married Daniel 5 years ago, and together we have a daughter named Sophie. She is only 4 years old, but she fills the house with light and laughter. When I see her smile, my heart feels warm. But when I look at my husband, I feel something different. It is as if the man I once knew is slowly becoming a stranger to me. When Daniel and I first met, our lives were full of happiness. We used to take long walks along the beach, holding hands while the waves touched our feet. We sat in small cafes and talked for hours about our dreams, our future, and the family we wanted to build. I remember the way he looked at me, like I was the only person in the world. His voice was full of excitement, and his laugh could fill any room. Back then, every day felt special, and love seemed so easy, so natural. But now, things are very different. Daniel comes home late from work almost every day. He puts his keys on the table, eats his dinner quickly, and then disappears into his office. If he is not in his office, he sits in front of the television, staring with tired eyes. Sometimes I try to talk to him, but his answers are short. He says he is busy, that work is heavy, and that I should not worry. But how can I not worry when the man I love is slipping further away from me each day? I used to help him with his business when he first started. I answered phone calls, checked numbers, and even wrote documents. We worked side by side, and I felt proud to be part of his world. He used to thank me for every little thing, and it made me feel needed. But slowly, he pushed me away. He said he preferred to handle everything himself. He told me that trusting people was dangerous, even me. Now he closes the door of his office, and I am left standing outside, wondering what secrets live behind that door. Last Friday, I made a plan. I thought maybe he just needed a reminder of who we were. I sent Sophie to spend the night at my sister's house, so Daniel and I could be alone. I cooked his favorite meal, the one he once said made him feel at home. I put on the blue dress he used to love, curled my hair, and even lit candles on the table. I wanted the room to feel warm, to bring back the love we had. But when Daniel came home, he only nodded, ate in silence, and walked away without even looking at me. I stayed there in the dining room with my heart breaking quietly inside me. The candles burned down slowly, the food grew cold, and I sat staring at the empty chair in front of me. Later that night, I sat in the living room with a cup of tea. The tea was hot at first, but like my hope, it turned cold very fast. Around me, the house was silent, but inside me, everything was loud. My thoughts ran in circles, asking questions I was too afraid to say out loud. I looked at our wedding pictures on the wall. In those photos, I saw a young couple full of dreams, holding each other with bright eyes and wide smiles. I touched the frame gently and wondered where that happiness had gone. I thought of the promises we made, the words we said, the life we believed we would always share. The woman in those pictures looked alive, loved, and safe. Now, sitting in the quiet room, I felt small, unseen, and forgotten. My hands shook as I held the photo, and I asked myself, where did we lose each other? Was it him, or was it me? The next evening, I waited for Daniel again. He came home late, his shoulders heavy, his face tired. I asked softly if we could talk, and to my surprise, he agreed. We sat on the couch, and I tried to stay calm, even though my heart was beating fast. My hands shook as I looked at him, searching for the man I used to know. I told him we didn't talk anymore, that he felt far away from me, and I asked him if something was wrong. Daniel listened in silence, his eyes fixed on the floor. When he finally spoke, he said that work was too much, that his company was full of problems, and he didn't know how to handle them all. He said he was tired, but that he still loved me. His voice was calm, but his face didn't look the same. I wanted to believe his words, but a small voice inside me whispered doubts. I held his hand and asked quietly if there was someone else, another person in his heart. The question seemed to shock him. He looked up quickly and said, "No, never." His voice was firm, almost too fast, and his eyes looked strange. He said he only needed more time, that I should be patient, that things would get better. I nodded because I wanted to trust him, but inside I was not sure. I felt like I was standing on sand, and the ground under me was moving. He touched my hand gently, and for a moment I hoped again. Even though my heart still felt heavy, days turned into weeks, and nothing changed. Daniel still came home late, still hid in his office for hours. I tried to keep smiling for Sophie. I played with her, read her stories, and filled the house with laughter for her sake. But when she went to bed, the silence returned, and I felt the emptiness inside me grow stronger. I told myself to wait, but waiting felt like drowning slowly, one breath at a time. One Saturday morning, I planned something simple. I asked Daniel if we could take Sophie to the park, to spend just one afternoon together as a family. His answer was cold, almost without thought. He said he had a meeting, that maybe next week would be better. My smile disappeared, and I walked away before he could see the tears in my eyes. Sophie looked at me with her big, innocent eyes and asked, "Why isn't Daddy coming with us?" I had no answer, only silence and a broken heart. That night, I could not sleep. I lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the clock tick in the dark. Daniel was beside me, breathing deeply, already lost in sleep, but I felt more alone than if I were in an empty room. I thought about all the moments I had given him my love, my youth, my energy, and my hope. I thought about how invisible I had become, how my words no longer reached him, and how my heart was breaking in quiet pieces. The following week, something unexpected happened. One evening, Daniel left his phone on the table when he went to take a shower. I wasn't planning to touch it. I didn't even want to look, but then the screen lit up. A message appeared, and my body froze. It was from a woman whose name I didn't know. The words were simple, but sharp, cutting deep into me. "I miss you. Did you think about me today?" My hands trembled, and my chest felt tight. I didn't open the message. I didn't need to. The truth was already in front of me. When Daniel came back into the room, I quickly placed the phone back on the table. My hands were still shaking, and I could feel my heart beating loudly in my chest. He smiled at me like nothing was wrong, but I could not look at him the same way anymore. My mind was full of questions, full of pain, and full of fear. I wanted to scream, to cry, to ask him about the message, but my voice stayed silent. It felt like a storm was inside me, but outside I was frozen like stone. That night, I lay beside him in bed while he slept peacefully. I turned my face toward the wall, and tears rolled slowly down my cheeks. I thought about the years we had shared, the promises we had made, and the love I had given so fully. I remembered the sacrifices I made for him, the way I stood by him when times were hard. and how I gave my heart without holding anything back. And now, all of that felt broken, like glass scattered across the floor. The next morning, I tried to act normal. I made breakfast, smiled at Sophie, and even asked Daniel about his work. But inside, I was drowning. His voice felt far away, his presence felt empty, and every word reminded me of the secret I now carried in my heart. I knew about the other woman, even if he never admitted it. I could see it in his tired eyes, in the way he avoided my touch, and in the silence that had grown between us. It was no longer only work that took him away from me. Later that evening, after Sophie went to sleep, I sat at the kitchen table with a blank piece of paper in front of me. I held a pen in my hand, but for a long time, I didn't write anything. My mind was heavy, full of pain, but also full of clarity. I could not keep living like a shadow in my own home. I could not keep waiting for a love that was no longer there. Slowly, with shaking hands, I began to write a letter. It was short, but every word came from my soul. The letter said that I had loved him deeply, that I had waited, and that I had been patient. It said I tried to believe him, but my heart could no longer carry the silence. I told him I missed his heart more than his presence, and that I needed to find myself again before I disappeared completely. I wrote that I was not leaving forever, but I could not stay invisible any longer. My tears fell on the paper, leaving small marks, but I did not wipe them away. They were part of the truth too. That night, I packed a small bag with clothes for me and for Sophie. I moved quietly through the house, afraid that if I made too much noise, my courage would break. I placed the letter on the table where he would see it. Next to the candle that had burned out the night, I tried to surprise him. I looked around the living room one last time, remembering the laughter that once lived here, the warmth that once filled these walls, and the love that had slowly faded away. I held Sophie's hand gently as we stepped outside into the cool night. The air touched my face, and for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe again. The streets were quiet, and the only sound was our footsteps on the ground. Sophie looked up at me with sleepy eyes, and I whispered softly that everything would be okay. I didn't know what the future would bring, but I knew one thing. I could not keep losing myself in silence. You are never invisible. Your life, your voice, and your heart matter. Even when love feels broken, remember that healing begins when you choose yourself.